In this example, we are going to take a look at page 94, number 36. So let's go ahead, that's 2.2, number 36. Let's go ahead and open up that StatCrunch file. This one's nicely preloaded in our text, and it's going to give us uninsured rates, which means the percentage of people who were without health insurance for the 50 states plus DC. So notice on this view, they already have it sorted for us. It's sorted in the textbook. It's also sorted in StatCrunch. If the data is not sorted, that can make it a little bit more difficult to get a range, but StatCrunch can sort for us is one thing we'll investigate later. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we need to do. So your directions tell you to start by creating a frequency histogram. So let's go to our graph, choose the histogram option, and we don't need to worry about grouping. When you only have one column of data, there's not really any grouping you can do. We would want to do grouping if we had a second column of data, and maybe we wanted to create a group of males and females, and the second column of data gave the gender. Right now, let's leave the type as frequency. We can always go back and change it to relative frequency later. And we want to choose where to start our bins. And then we also want to choose our width. So notice this one is directing us to have a first lower class limit of 4, meaning we're going to start at 4, and a class width of 2. So let's go ahead and hit compute. And I'm going to check before I do that this value above bar. This is an option that's kind of nice, so that if you had to estimate, it makes it a little bit easier. Notice these ones, we're not having to do much estimation. If I was looking at the percentages, that might be more helpful. Okay, so notice I can hover on the bar. It's including the first and not including the end part. So let's go back in, and I just want to show you if I wanted to do a relative frequency, I certainly could. Right? And notice some of these decimals get a little bit more messy. So let's change that back to frequency. And from here you could copy and paste. So in the next part, we're going to change the we're going to change the class width. Instead of having a class width of 2, and each of these bars going like from 4 to 6, from 8 to 10, from 10 to 12. So notice if I hover, it reminds me 4 to 6, 8 to 10, and so on. I can change that to have a class width of 1, meaning you're looking at 1% each time instead of 2%. So if I go in there, I'm still starting at 4 because my smallest percentage of uninsured was 4.2%. So we wouldn't really want to start it any higher, and it's not really going to help us to start it any lower. Alright, so notice what happened. Our shape is similar. Sometimes changing that width can change your shape quite a bit, but we have much lower frequencies in each bar since it's only spanning 1%. Alright, so let's talk briefly just one more thing. We said in class that if you were wanting to create a frequency distribution, StatCrunch really doesn't do that very well. So if I ask it to go in and create a frequency table, stat tables, and frequency, select my uninsured, I'll ask it to do frequency and relative frequency. And let's see. StatCrunch even gives me an error message, which we didn't see before. It says, whoa, are you sure that you want to do that? And this is actually a new feature that I didn't realize that it was doing until I tried this particular one. Sometimes it doesn't even ask you, but it recognizes we have a lot of data and we might want to bin or group them together. So the downside is if it doesn't ask you this, then it would just tell you like one of everything, or maybe there's a couple that are repeats. So let's go ahead and click OK. And notice what it did. It very nicely binned it for me, but it binned it in 5s. So if I wanted to, let's see if I can go back and edit that. it's not really giving me any place to edit, and this is the hard part. It gives me that option, which again is brand new. I hadn't seen it do that before, but it's not necessarily the option I want. So if I was looking at the book and it said to create a frequency distribution using a lower class limit of 4 and a class width of 2 or a class width of 1, this is giving me a lower class limit of 0 and a class width of 5, which is not exactly what it was looking for. Okay, so if we wanted to adjust these, right, all that does is reorder my categories. If I were to reorder my frequencies, notice it rearranges my categories, but none of that really changes what I'm looking for here. So if what StatCrunch is doing is not what you want, you can create your frequency distribution from this part. In other words, if I wanted to tell how many were between 4 and 5, 1. How many between 8 and 9, 1. So this allows me to do the counts instead of having to count up by hand.